Good morning. It's great to be back. I am going to just go through a couple of little things that some people have asked me to show them. And one of the recurring themes was getting your fabric straight. So cutting it straight. A lot of people spend a lot of time trying to get their fabric straight. If you've got a pattern fabric, they're not always woven completely on the square. So you have to make a decision about that. But I would say try and stick to your pattern, because it's really going to matter actually along the bottom and again on the top. If you've got a very, very definite pattern, you definitely need to sort out like a plaid or a check, then that has to be done on the pattern. You cannot go off that. And you know, if it goes off square, well, it shouldn't do really because it's woven, but if it does, then just steam it back into square, because if you don't follow a check or a plaid properly, it'll just look like a complete mess. So stick to a pattern. You might have, say, a flower and a flower and a flower, and this middle flower is slightly more raised than the two end points. Don't worry too much about that, because as long as you've followed that pattern more or less between one point and another, it should be fine. On a loose weave, you can probably manipulate it, so you can manipulate that middle flower back down to where the other two line up. But do try and stick to the pattern, because you're going to end up in all sorts of trouble if you don't. But there's a lot of people find that, you know, cutting pattern fabric actually much easier than a plain. So I thought I'd just go through cutting a plain fabric with you. This one is a very loose weave linen, and actually, as long as the thread doesn't break, which is a bit of a nightmare when you've got halfway through it, you could pull a thread, and it'll at least give you a starting line as to where that weft thread is actually running. If you can't pull a thread, and a lot of them are quite dense, like a Roma Linara or something like that, there is a bit of a grain on it, so you can sort of see when it's on the table roughly where that straight line would look right. But most people have got a square table, you know, hopefully it's been made with a right angle, you know, on both sides. So if you put your selvage along your edge and clamp it well, what I've done is I've put a pin in where I need cuts. So I've measured it all off, and I've put pins in, and now I'm going to put my selvage on this side. I should actually folded it in because I'm going to do a Roma blind with this, but pretend that's the selvage. So this is the selvage, and I've sort of made sure it's pretty square. I can see a line, I can see sort of lines running across, so you know whether it's completely off or not. It's more difficult on something like this because it's a bit wobbly, but on a more stable fabric, it's really easy to actually do this. And then you get a piece of chalk. So you put your pin, get your selvage on that side, get your pin lined up on your long side, get a piece of chalk, and it's a bit like doing a brass rubbing. You literally just draw a line, and that is where you cut. And you can do that with all of them. And you know what, it's really accurate. It really works. And that's the quickest way of cutting a plain fabric. So I thought I'd just share that quick tip with you. A lot of people might not know that. And so it might help. So that's my quick tip for this morning. Take care. Bye bye.